Before we begin, ask yourself, should I really be watching this video right now, or am I actually procrastinating working on my own game and making that a reality? If that latter part is true for you and you don't really need to watch this video right now, don't worry about it, go and work on your game, maybe leave us a like, just so the algorithm doesn't hate us. But if you have to work on your game, I would much rather have it that you do that instead of watching YouTube videos like these. You still stayed? Okay, I assume you're not procrastinating and you're actually just taking a little break from game development and you wanna learn a bit more about it. So welcome to my YouTube video where I'm gonna complain about the platform that I use to make my money basically. So this is gonna be a bit of a different video maybe. I don't know, I'm just gonna go on some old man ramblings about why I think that YouTube and watching game dev YouTube is not productive at all and is actually setting back your game development career. Now, the first thing I don't really like about YouTube in general, this is not just a game dev specific problem, is how almost nobody is transparent about their numbers. So there are two ways this manifests. The first one is just people don't tell the full story. So for example, you have people who make the videos of how they made $100,000 in 1 year with their game sales, but they don't talk about how it actually took 5 years and 25 failed projects to get to that state, because that's not cool, that's not sexy. They know that you, the viewer, just want to know how do I make as much money as fast as possible, because that's all you care about. This is something you see basically in every industry, not just game development. And I like to praise myself there. I like to think that we're doing it different here because we're very open. And that is because when I was a young lad, I wanted to know those numbers and I was always annoyed that nobody shares the truth. Everyone shares their beautiful version of how rich they are, but it's all fake on the internet. It's something you have to realize. I think we're pretty genuine. We've made videos like, for example, how our launch for Forge Industry wasn't that good. And on our Patreon, we also make monthly videos where we go into depth, like every single sales stat, everything we've earned, everything we spent, completely open there. And I think those are great things because there's not enough people doing this. Because I can guarantee you that there's like a 99.99% chance that your first game is not gonna sell that well. And that's fine, that's normal. But because the only content you watch is from other YouTubers who have made a game and it made like $1 million or so they say, you get a very twisted view. And it's not just sales numbers, but even things like wish lists can be very skewed, because if you see like games like, oh, Unrecord just uploads a trailer and they get hundreds of thousands of wish lists. Whereas when I coach people and they come to me and they're like, hey, I launched my store page, but I have only 40 wish lists. What happened? Well, reality happened, but most people aren't aware of that reality. Our launch for Forge Industry at 2,500 wish lists was already really good, honestly, looking back, because it was our first game and we made so many mistakes. But we also had that twisted vision because everyone is like 7,000 wish lists, at least 7,000 wish lists. But there's not enough people who don't get those 7,000 wish lists and still talk about game development because they just get lost in the void, really. And then one other annoyance on this topic that I hate as well, that honestly, I don't know if the guy watches this, he's a YouTuber, I think he knows who we are. But I watched like a video recently of a guy who said he had doubled his sales numbers of his game, like one simple trick. And he shows the Steam graph, but he deliberately cropped out the exact revenue numbers. Those are not under NDA. The only reason you're not showing those to your viewers is because you're scared of them roasting you. And I understand it, you guys are mean sometimes, but I don't mind. I would rather have the world know the truth than try and sell this fake vision of, oh, I went from $1,000 a month to $2,000, trust me, bro. I will just show you numbers and I'm gonna be like honest, like, hey, look, we're not doing too hot right now maybe, but we can get through it, because I believe that is much better in the long term, that you guys believe that this channel is authentic. And I'm not just gonna use this channel to peddle a course where in 1 month you can make $1 million with your first game, no coding required or whatever, because that's not real. And then what's also not real is the development process you see a lot on these devlogs. So I know you guys like to watch devlogs. Honestly, I never fully got the appeal of it, but maybe it's because I'm not as hardcore of a programmer. But devlogs show a very tainted way of how should you be programming. Because you have to remember, honestly, people on YouTube that make videos about their game development, I would call them more of a YouTuber than game developers. That's also what I feel. I am more of a YouTuber than a game developer. Thomas and William in our team, they're game developers. They don't worry about it. But my job is just making videos and getting people to click and to watch these videos. I'm in a bunch of game dev YouTube discords, and you need to know, These thumbnails, these titles, they are not just random screenshots, they are A/B tested. Like a bunch of game devs, they get into a call and they start talking about the different ways to optimize a thumbnail so that you will click on it, and they don't care about showing the truth. They look into storytelling. Yeah, sure, they say it's about, making sure people stay engaged for longer, but why should they care about that? Because they're YouTubers, they're not just sharing their game's progress. They want to get as much of your attention as possible to maybe do a sponsorship at a later point, because that's gonna be earning them more money than their game sales. And because of that, because they have this twisted goal of not making a game, but just showing a game, they have their priorities completely reversed. So normally you program a lot. You guys are mainly programmers as well. You start by programming your game, trying out the mechanics, but you don't start with the art. Whereas if you want to have a successful devlog series, you start with the art and only then later on do you add the actual code parts, because it's the art that's important. If your first devlog is ugly, nobody will watch it. So we tried that with Songs of Everjade. We really wanted to focus as much as possible on making the game beautiful first and then playable second. But about a week ago now, I realized that this is dumb. This is not how it's being done. We try to do it for our own devlogs, but honestly, our devlogs have been performing all right, but it's not worth it to have that cost of having the weird development, because we have a team that's very strong in programming and suddenly they have to focus on art. And I'm just sitting there like, what am I doing? This is not genuine. This is not real. We should focus on our strengths, focus on that first, find the fun, find the mechanics actually, and only then focus on how do we make this game pretty. So don't stress it if your game doesn't look great yet. First see if your game is fun, and only then later on look at how am I gonna make this pretty. This next part is like 2 points kind of combined, but part of these devlogs is also that it oversimplifies things. There's this genre of devlogs as well that performs really well, where it's like, I recreated certain mechanic or certain game in 48 hours or 24 hours or 7 days or 1 hour or whatever, where they make it seem like they do something very complex, like making Breath of the Wild all over again, and they do it in like a week. And sure, certain things are there, but there is so much that you're not seeing because of editing magic, when they are struggling with stupid bugs, when they are just figuring out how does something work. That bug instead gets turned into maybe like a 5-second joke about how they were running into a wall, but they broke through it eventually. But if you're actually going through that wall, if you have a bug that you just can't seem to fix, you're gonna be feeling stupid because everyone else on the internet knows apparently what to do. It's only you who has that problem, and everyone else who's sharing their stuff is only sharing their highlights. You need to remember that. And there's a lot of things you can hide with editing magic. Also remember, even things like, the game's not even being finished yet. You can just cut out all of the ugly parts, but if you actually ask for a full playable demo, often it's not possible because there's just too much broken stuff that is like right outside the camera's field of view. And this also feeds your perfectionism. What I mean by this is that honestly, not that many game dev YouTubers have actually released a game. Have you thought about that? Because once again, they're YouTubers first and game devs second. The moment they release their game, they lose part of their content. If you're working on a game and it's getting very good views devlog wise, you don't want to actually release that game. It's much more beneficial to just keep making more devlogs, keep making more videos about it, because I'm gonna be honest with you right now, these devlogs that anyone makes converts horribly to wishlists. Not just me, but many other games. There's like a few sites that you can like get wishlist estimations that are pretty correct. You'll see that games that have had like devlogs with hundreds of thousands of views only have like 1,000 wishlists often. And there's nothing wrong with that. Once again, they're just hiding the truth. They're not telling you that. I'm telling you now to go and look at that because you probably don't think about it, that conversion rates are that low. So it's more beneficial to just make a few more devlogs that get a few 100,000 views more and just live off the AdSense instead of working on finishing the game. But because you don't have a finished game, you don't have that much to tell. That's also why I was very adamant that during Forge Industries launch, I wanted to release a game, because then only did I have some credibility and I didn't feel like an imposter with what I'm telling you. I know for a fact that everything that I've done, I know all of the mistakes and I know how I can help you with them. But I also see developers talk about things that honestly they've never experienced because they've never released a game. They've only gone through the development part, but they never finish it. And this feeds your perfectionism as well, because these people, because they just keep working on their same game for 5 years, they're making a really beautiful game or a really deep game. But I don't believe that is what your focus should be if you're trying to get into game development. You should focus on smaller games, like 3 to 6 months, making a lot of them and just figuring out what sticks, what are my talents, and how am I going to learn from my mistakes and make sure that my 5th game or my however many game is going to be a great one. And then this one, I don't really mind that much, honestly, but people overcomplicate tools sometimes. This is very obvious, for example, with engine videos. Like we made a tier list engine video. There's plenty of videos out there as well, comparing Unreal with Unity, with Godot or whatever, or there's videos talking about how Bevy is the ultimate engine. And the problem with watching these videos is that you probably have shiny object syndrome. There's a very high amount of developers that I've talked to, once again through our Discord or through coaching or whatever, and they're still stuck on the engine, which is something that you shouldn't overcomplicate. You just take one, you make a project in it. If it turns out it's not really that great, you just move on and try another engine. There's this whole market. I mean, it's one of our most popular videos as well. Just talking about tools, whether it's engines or maybe it's like, should I use Sprite or Krita, or what drawing software should I use? What IDE should I use? Should I use Ride or should I use Visual Studio? It doesn't need to be this complicated. You just need to do something. But once again, they need to make content, they need to talk about stuff. So that's what they go for. And they create a lot of fear and uncertainty with you, so you don't really know what should I do. If you come to me and you're like, I don't know what engine to use, sorry, but just pick an engine and get started. There's no wrong choice, really. You can work with Game Maker Studio, I don't care. Everything works, you just need to find it out for yourself. So if you're still doubting what engine you should use, stop that and just do a coin toss for all I care and go with it and stick with it and make one short project with it and then reevaluate. So honestly, this video may sound very negative, but this is something that I need you to know, because often you guys come to me and you ask for my advice, and all of the problems you have stem from watching too much YouTube. I know, it's very weird because I'm saying to watch my videos maybe, but I believe truly that we are somewhat different, that we try to be as genuine as possible and to really help you. Every video I make, I want to help you. Our goal isn't to be entertaining that much, but it's more to be educational. Sure, maybe I say funny words now and then, or some of our videos aren't as serious, but you should know these things. There's nothing wrong with watching devlogs for entertainment, but what there is something wrong with is if you let those devlogs influence how you feel about your own development process. So if you're new here, we're what I would call a genuine development channel. So we are developers, we've released our own game, we're actively working on our 2nd game, and I'm not even gonna ask you to wishlist it because I know it doesn't really convert that well. And we just talk about our own experiences when we go to events, when we launch games, for example, or mistakes we make, things I learn along the way. And I just want you to know them so you don't make the same mistakes that I've done, and we can all just become better developers in the end. If that's something you're interested in, be sure to head down below and subscribe, and maybe also leave us a like, as it really helps us out because I know that you want to become a great developer as well. That's all I really had to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!